All right. So, um, welcome. And I am your presenter for this evening. I don't get to introduce anyone else this evening. And the reason why I'm doing this is multifold. Um, this is a journey I personally started on in astrology. It's been almost a year and a half ago now. This is not my primary practice, nor will it ever be. I'm interested in medical astrology. I have found great value in knowing some medical astrology, but I don't know that I would uh, immerse myself in it as a medical astrologer. But with that having been said, although I don't practice it, I have to say that I think it is an essential knowledge that we all need to know, especially if you're looking at a chart or you're just using a. And uh, this is something that as a community, you guys have requested for eons. And I finally have gotten the time and have gotten through enough training to believe that I can actually speak to you on the fundamentals of health, medical. As those of you know, I went through a training program for medical astrology, and I've been through lots of webinars. I've worked with Heather Eland. I've worked through a lot of webinars with Judith Hill, Cameron Allen, and I really enjoy Kira Sutherland. If anyone is looking for a teacher, if this sparks within you some great passion to know or to be a medical astrologer, those would be the names that I would recommend to search out to go in depth with, because they will take you deep down and you can really get deep with this. All right, so basically what we're going to do is through this series, we are going to look at all the pieces of medical astrology, but with I'm just scratching the surface. All right, I'm going to give you deep enough information where you have an understanding. I won't be giving you deep enough information where you could probably run out and utilize this for someone other than yourself. We are going to start with tonight looking at the anatomy through the zodiac and through the sun, the moon, and the ascendant. In 2 weeks, we're going to go through the planets and their purposes astrologically and their meanings. 2 weeks after that, we're going to go through the houses that are significant in health astrology. And then we're also going to be 2 weeks after that looking at aspects and dominant planets. And then the final one that I will be doing, there'll be 5 of these, and it will be done in August, is going to be actually how to look at transits and better understand the what's going on in a chart as far as health goes, utilizing these health pieces. Okay. All right. So before I begin, I have to read this big disclaimer. So let me get through this and then we can go on with the fun stuff. All right. So the content that is provided in this astrology presentation, including all textual materials and chart interpretations, is for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not intended to serve as a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. I am not a medical practitioner and I do not offer medical advice or health services. The insights and strategies discussed during these sessions should not be taken as medical advice or applied as a medical solution to any health issue. Participants are encouraged to consult with qualified health professionals regarding any personal health concerns or conditions. Any reliance on the information provided in these sessions is strictly at your own risk. I do not guarantee the accuracy or I can't get the word out tonight. Efficacy, I got it, of astrological interpretations in predicting or resolving any health-related issues. By participating in these sessions, you acknowledge and agree that this session facilitator and organizers are not liable for any direct, indirect, incidental, consequential, or any other damages arising out of, related to your use or inability to use the information or strategies discussed. Participation in this presentation does not establish a professional-client relationship of any kind between the facilitator and the participant, and all astrological counseling provided during these sessions is intended to support self-awareness and personal growth and not provide health or medical solutions. Okay, we've gotten that out of the way. Now let's dig in. All right, so when we look at astrological anatomy, this isn't some new idea. Roots go way, way back in history, combining astrology and medicine. They actually were hand in hand, at the very beginning when these disciplines, came to be. They were, entwined together. Actually, historically, physicians like Hippocrates, who was the father of medicine, and then later Galen, who was a wonderful, skilled physician, were also skilled astrologers. They understood that the cosmos influenced the microcosm of the human body, and that each zodiac sign governs specific parts of our physical form. Okay. And so when we look at astrology and medicine and how closely linked they were, I think I cannot speak to you guys tonight. Our beloved father of medicine said in a quote that a physician without knowledge of astrology has no right to call themselves a physician. And I think this underscores the integral role that astrology plays in medical practice. All right. In ancient times, it was believed that the position of the stars and the planets at the time of a person's birth would influence their physical health and temperament. And basically, integrating astrology principles into medical teachings and associating different signs of the zodiac with specific body parts have been around for eons. All right, so it is not something new. All right, so let's bring it forward. We just talked about the history. Let's talk about now, today. All right, so what I'm going to attempt to do today is to bridge this ancient with the modern. And we're going to go through how astrological anatomy, actually knowing what different signs have to do with different parts of our body, how that can enrich and understand our health. For me personally, when I started learning all this, it was very illuminating. I'm like, oh, now I get why I have issues with this. Oh, now I get why I'm this way. It really helped me understand my health, and it actually gave me some peace with some pieces of it, because it let me know that I am what I am and what I am supposed to be, and that I have to do the best to find the strengths in my possible challenges. Okay, so my goal is not just to learn these associations, also try to apply them. So I am going to, at the end of this, kind of roll through what we learned, and so you guys can actually look at your own charts and kind of pick out the pieces for yourself, because I think that's the most important part of this. And each time we meet for each layer, like I said, we're just barely scratching with the zodiac and the pieces of the body today. Next time when we do the planets, we'll be adding another layer. Then we do the houses, we'll be adding another layer. Then we do the aspects and we add another layer. And then by the time you get to transits, you should have enough of the layers, at least a fundamental understanding of them, to be able to have a better understanding of yourself and your health and how things are evolving in your plan. All right, so basically I'm going to start trying to connect these dots between the heavens and our health, and I try to look at everything holistically, as far as thinking about the well-being for the wisdom of whatever the stars are offering us. Okay, so you'll see that as I talk, because I like to try to keep that connection real, that all of this goes into us as a whole. There's no, here, it's all you. We have to make it all holistic to our life. All right, so we're going to go through each of the zodiac signs, and we're going to go through the body parts that are associated, and sometimes not just body parts, but body systems. All right. We're going to look at the correlation, and this is going to offer you a lot of insight into your physical strengths and your vulnerabilities. And it's going to give you a really unique perspective on health. And you have to think about the fact that these are things that have been observed and utilized for millennia. All right, so we're going to start with Aries. All right, so when we think about Aries, all right, you're thinking about your sun, your moon, and your ascendant. I will break them into deeper pieces as we go, but as we go through these, if any of those are you, then you want to think about this, okay? And I forgot, I'm going to throw the slides into the chat so that you can all grab them, so that you have them and for yourself, so that you'll have this information later on. All right, so we're starting with Aries. All right, so I'm going to take you from literally the top of your head all the way down your body. I'm going to back up for just a second. This chart that we have here, I love this chart. I have no idea who created this chart. This chart was the one that was shown to me when I first started astrology, and it made it so much easier for me to remember all this. Basically, as the signs wrap around the wheel, they closely reflect that part of the body. So with Aries, we are starting at the top of the body, and then at Pisces, we're going to wind up at the bottom of the body. And then we have pieces all in the middle. Okay. So think about that as we're kind of working our way around the body and down as we go around the wheel. All right. So Aries governs our head, our brain, our eyes, our face, the muscles in our face. So anything that has to do with this space in your body. All right. And basically, if we're thinking about Aries, the Aries energy is pioneering and it's assertive energy. And so when we think about them in this headspace of our body, it's kind of reflecting like the dynamic and the proactive nature of Aries in this space. Okay. If we think about Aries, it's our first sign, and it embodies the principle of initiation and leadership. Okay. And it's governed by Mars, all right, which is the planet of energy and action. And so Aries influences our head. And so when we're looking at individuals under this sign or with significant placements in that Aries area, we're going to see somebody that's probably headstrong, metaphorically and literally. Aries has dominion over the brain, and so that makes them prone to headaches, migraines, head injuries, because of the enthusiastic and sometimes impulsive nature that Aries brings through there. We're looking at the eyes, the windows of the world, kind of reflecting Aries' need for that constant stimulation. And often they can suffer from strain of the eyes. All right. If we look at it historically, medical astrologers would advise Aries historically, and those with those prominent placements, to be cautious of activities that would lead to head injuries. They always, recommend thinking in a modern way, helmets, protective headgear in sports, basically protecting your head, protecting your face. I have met Aries often that have scars on their faces. It's almost something that you see. Anything that has to do with these kinds of things. It's interesting because my husband has Aries in his sixth house, and which is health and daily living. And it, my husband suffered a brain injury in a car accident. Okay, his Mars and his Chiron are also in that same house, and Jupiter. So, you can kind of see these things as we start piecing it together. When we think about healing, all right, healing with Aries, I think about the herbs that are associated with Mars, which would be like garlic, ginger, things that are known for their stimulating properties, things that boost vitality in people. However, you have to remember that you might want to use such things cautiously if you've got hairy. This is going to be an interesting evening. If you've got heavy Aries in your chart, because that fiery nature might not always need added heat to it. Okay. It's something that, yes, I see here. I'm trying to watch the chat a little bit while you guys. Mars in Aries indicates inflammation in the brain as well. Yes. Yeah. Think any head scenarios. Okay. So basically what we're trying to understand Aries as an astrological, anatomy piece, it's going to give us insights into managing that fiery temperament and a propensity for head related issues. And it kind of underscores an importance of balancing the innate energy with activities that kind of foster mental calmness and physical safety. Okay, those are kind of the things we want to think about with Aries. All right, Taurus. Like I said, we're moving our way down the body. So with Taurus, we are looking at our neck, our throat, our vocal cords, our thyroid gland, and the muscles just in the neck. Don't take them out into the shoulders, just into the neck. All right. I know I have a Taurus ascendant and a Taurus moon, and tension for me hangs in this muscle right here at the back of my neck. All right. So it's that Taurus energy that's holding that tension. All right. So when we think about Taurus and we've got this space of our body, all right, we're looking at it as being things as needing to associate with voice, stability, persistence. Okay. If we look at Taurus people, they need to watch for throat infections, thyroid imbalances. Okay. Taurus is our second zodiac sign, and it's really heavily rooted in Earth, and it's ruled by Venus, which is, of course, the planet of not only love and beauty, but also what we value, things that are important to us, money, things of that nature. And so this sign governs the neck, the throat, which symbolizes Taurus's connection to voice, stability, and the material world. All right. Taurus people are known for their love for comfort, sensuality, stability, also for stubbornness and their resistance to change. So when we start looking at Taurus's association with the neck and the throat, all right, individuals that have those significant placements are prone to throat infections, thyroid imbalances, issues related to vocal cords. And as far as thyroid gland goes in particular, it plays a crucial role in regulating that metabolism, and its dysfunction can lead to significant health concerns. And so think about those things if you have Taurus prominent in your chart. All right. If we look at it historically, Taurus has always been a sign where there has been advisement to guard against indulgence, and particularly in foods that could affect the throat or the thyroid. Some herbal remedies that are Taurus related for ailments that have to do with this part of the body. We look at we're looking at Teas to soothe the throat, like slippery elm or honey and lemon. Also eating seaweed or nuts, that's for that thyroid health, due to the iodine content in them, okay? When we think about health astrology with Taurus, we're going to remind each other of the importance of nurturing our physical senses while maintaining balance. So we've got our throat and our thyroid governed by Taurus, and that's going to ask us for attention to not only physical, but also emotional well-being, because Taurus's affinity for stability and comfort can often lead to resistance against changing things they need to have health improvements. All right. This Taurus area is teaching us the value of stability and routine and the gentle care of the physical body. Okay. Gemini. All right. So when we think about Gemini, we've moved a little bit farther down our body. Okay. Gemini rules and think about these because these are our pairs. We have two of them. Our arms, our hands, our lungs, but also our nervous system. All right. So reflecting, this space of the body, we're down here now. It's kind of looking at the association with communication and connectivity. Gemini's influence manifests as respiratory issues, possible nervous conditions, kind of underscoring the need for mental and respiratory health. Mercury governs Gemini, which is the planet of communication. And so when you think about Gemini, we think about exchanging ideas, intellectual engagement, adaptability. So when we think about this sign having power over the arms and the hands and the shoulders, it almost symbolizes, I think, a role of facilitating connection, expression, both physically through gestures and socially through communication. When we think about the lungs and the nervous system under Gemini's rule, I think that highlights the importance of literally the breath and the exchange of ideas of life and vitality. All right. So thinking about those that have prominent Gemini placements, these are people that might find themselves with respiratory issues like asthma, bronchitis, given the sign's rule over the lungs. Also, with the nervous system involved, we could have susceptibility to stress or anxiety, reflecting Gemini's tendency towards that, mental overactivity. We could have issues with the arms, the hands, and the shoulders, like carpal tunnel or repetitive strain injury that could come from constant activity and communication. Okay. Is this any placements in these signs? Lisa, tonight we're focusing on sun, moon, and ascendant. Okay, so focus on that this evening. Next time when we do the planets, we'll be adding on another layer, but this evening, that's my focus. All right, so when I say prominent placements, if you have, like with Gemini, if you are a Gemini rising, or if you have a Gemini moon, or if you have a Gemini sun, these might be things that you would be finding yourself having issues with. Okay. All right, so historically, if we look at what in ancient times Geminis were advised, they were always advised to cultivate calm and grounding practices into their lives to help with their nervous energy. Okay, so it's like they are trying to they've always been advised to balance their minds, to try to maintain the level of energy and stress. All right. And they also have utilized in historically adaptogenic herbs like holy basil. Let's see if I can get this word out. I see it in my head. I don't know why I can't say things tonight. Ashwagandha. ashwagandha. I think I got it. Any of those kinds of things, any herbs that support the nervous system health and resilience against stress. Okay. When we think about Gemini's astrological anatomy and what it teaches us the significance of communication, not just with others, but within our body. All right. So the health of our lungs and our nervous system directly impact our ability to interact with the world around us. And so by nurturing these areas, we're supporting our innate Gemini traits of adaptability and intellect and connectivity. Yes, that's it. I must have said it good enough for you guys to figure out what I was talking about. And so nurturing these spaces gives you the ability to fully express yourself and kind of completely have the ability to breathe in that breath of life, so that you have the ability to have the relationships and the ideas as a Gemini that you thrive off of and that bring you vitality. All right. Cancer. All right. I saw Cancer whiz by in the chat. With Cancer controls, we're down here now, our chest, our breast, our stomach. And when I say stomach, we're going to find there are a couple signs that have things to do with the stomach. You're going to see that some of these signs almost work in tandem together. So Cancer is stomach, and basically Cancer represents areas that symbolize nurturing or emotional sustenance, right? So if you have prominent Cancer in your chart, where these are individuals that might experience digestive or emotional health issues, emphasizing the importance of emotional and gastric care, okay? So Cancer is, of course, ruled by the moon. And so that kind of embodies these qualities of nurturing and protection and emotion. And so this is a water sign. And so with the dominion over this chest and breast and stomach space, it's kind of highlighting a focus on nourishment and care, both emotionally and physically. When we think about the stomach and the digestive system associated with Cancer, it's kind of reflecting the sensitivity to the emotional and environmental factors that are around them, as Cancers have. It's kind of almost underscoring too that deep connection between emotional well-being and physical health. All right. Individuals with these Cancer placements might be particularly sensitive to digestive issues, which are exacerbated by stress or emotional turmoil. Things like gastritis, ulcers, irritable bowel syndrome. Those could manifest when you have a Cancer that's out of balance. When a Cancer has issues, it's like highlighting a need for emotional harmony for physical health. Additionally, Cancer ruling over the chest can make them prone to respiratory issues and ailments affecting the breast. All right. So not so much deeply the lungs like with the Gemini, but also, the breast and the muscles in the chest area around our respiratory. Right. Historically, if we look at Cancer, we're looking at that Cancer was considered to possess like really strong connections between their emotional and physical health. And so herbal remedies that they utilize were aimed at soothing that digestive system, like chamomile, peppermint, ginger, things that might alleviate the stress and alleviate digestive complaints. Lots of times with Cancer, you see them using protective amulets or some kind of protective practice designed to shield against that negative energy, so that Cancer have that emotional security going on within them. I am a Cancer sun, which many of you know, and I had significant issues with ulcers, and which led to me having to have some significant surgeries. And I still have issues with gastric things and anything that has to do with my digestive system. And I utilize and have utilized for eons ginger. Ginger is my best friend. I have found that ginger can calm almost any problem that I have, with digestive issues. Same with the chamomile. I am not a peppermint fan, but I know peppermint does work very well as well. But yeah, so yeah, these are digestive issues are something you see in cancers. As far as thinking about cancer's astrological anatomy, I think it really emphasizes the profound impact of the emotional state on physical health. All right, I think that is paramount when you're thinking about cancer and health. And cancer, I think, also they have the ability to enhance their physical well-being by doing, and perhaps it's why I'm always promoting having a holistic nature when it comes to health in astrological terms. I think that this sign really teaches us the importance of emotional care as like a foundation for our physical health. And, that it's really a lesson that extends beyond those with the prominent cancer placements. I think wherever cancer is in your chart is probably an area where you need to focus on maintaining that feeling, which as we go forth, like I said, and we add some of the other layers to this in future weeks, you're going to see how significant all these pieces line up with our health as we go. All right, Leo. So Leo, of course, is related to, we're down here now, right below our breast. It's our heart. Leo is our heart. It's our spine, and it's the upper back. All right. And so Leos are known to be very strong-willed. But they also are known to need to pay attention to heart health and spinal integrity because it supports how dynamic they are in the dynamic parts of their lifestyle. Of course, it's governed by the sun. It's the center of the solar system. And so with this Leo energy, it exudes that warmth, that courage, that vitality. All right. So when we think about Leo's rulership over the heart, think about it symbolizing not just the physical organ, but also the essence of life and spirit. All right. Leos are known, like I just said, for that strong will, passion, and the generosity that they have. And so for them, being a leader is often something they can do with ease. All right. And if you think about the spine being associated with Leo, it really underscores this sign's strength, this support that they have. And so it's important for them to support their posture and their self-confidence, kind of, reflecting that backbone in any undertaking they have in their life. With the heart under Leo's domain, we have to think about the fact that if you have placements, significant ones in this Leo sign, that you might be inclined towards things that have to do with cardiovascular health, like high blood pressure or maybe some kind of heart condition. Especially if the vitality is not being channeled in a healthy way. The spine and the upper back are areas where you might experience, if you're dominant in this area, strain or injury because of overextending yourself and maybe not using proper posture. If we think about it historically, Leos often, historically and currently, because they're natural leaders, they have roles that require really both physical strength and heart. And so, they practice it's important to practice to enhance that heart strength and that courage, like with meditation, focus on the heart chakra, or exercises to boost confidence and willpower. Those are kinds of things that are encouraged to strengthen this sign. Also, the use of gold and sunstone are associated with the sun, and they help promote health and vitality. in Leo. Okay. Leo anatomy kind of teaches, I think, when we look at it astrologically, the importance of balance and balancing that strength with self-care. So protecting the heart and the spine, literally and metaphorically, kind of highlighting the need for Leos to nurture their physical and emotional centers of power. And so, you know, it's important for them to do that because it gives them the ability to kind of shine brightly and to lead with both strength and with compassion. Yes, gold. Yes, gold. All right, Virgos. All right, so if you've got Virgo sun, Virgo moon, Virgo rising, think about some of these things. All right, so when we go to Virgo, if you think about the sign Virgo, Virgo is meticulous, attention to detail, uh, especially when it comes to the digestive system and purity and health maintenance. Virgos are very, very into health. Virgo oversees the digestive system. It's that lower part of the digestive system, including the intestines. This sign is associated with purity and analysis and efficiency. And so those Virgo placements might have a sensitivity to diet or digestion, highlighting some kind of need for balance, or maybe some kind of mindful approach to nutrition. It's governed by Mercury, I think, which brings about and kind of embodies that precision and that service and that analytical strength that the Virgos have. And it's an earth sign. So again, this thinking about this being connected to the digestive system kind of underscores its role in assimilating both nutritional and informational sustenance. Okay, so it's like highlighting the importance of being very discerning in physical and intellectual consumption. I think Virgo's rulership extends when we go down into the intestines and the spleen. It emphasizes purification and the critical analysis of what's serving the body and what is not serving the body. And when we think about it in the terms of our nervous system, I think it points to Virgo's really acute awareness and sometimes I think a predisposition towards anxiety due to their detail-oriented nature. Okay, so when we have prominent Virgo, we may experience sensitivities related to our digestive system. Things, again, like irritable bowel system, but also things like food intolerances, digestive tract inflammation. All right. Think about this, you know, how meticulous they are and how much stress that brings and worry. And so this is where that impact comes into the nervous system and might manifest itself as insomnia, nervousness, digestive discomfort due to stress. Okay. When we think about it historically, all right, Virgos were often associated with healing professions, all right? And that kind of was reflecting their analytical skills and their innate desire to improve health. And so remedies for Virgo-related health issues traditionally were things like the herbal teas, known for their soothing digestive properties. Again, we're looking at the peppermint, the chamomile, the ginger. Also, they incorporated practices that aimed at calming their minds and promoting mental clarity, like journaling, or maybe a hobby that they focused on heavily. I have a few Virgo friends that are really into, and in my mind, it kind of meets both the mental clarity and the calming. They're big colorers. You know how they have the adult coloring books and the adult things you can sit and kind of zone out coloring. They love to do this, and they're really, really good at it. For them, it's a hobby, and it helps to, I think, address some of that overthinking and worry that they have, because when they get kind of stressed, they can kind of sit down and just kind of relax and kind of take themselves away from what they're thinking and focus on whatever intricate image they have in front of them that they're working on. I have a Virgo friend too, is big into cross stitch. She loves cross stitch. So I think anything that kind of brings that, it makes you physically take your thoughts out of your brain and takes them into you doing something, I think is very healing for Virgo, because I think it kind of takes out some of that overthinking. All right, so when we look at the, Virgo's anatomy, as far as we look at it with astrology, I think it is inviting us to consider the connection between mind and body, but with the focus on stress and mental patterns and physical health. All right. Think of nurturing the digestive system through mindful eating, stress management, having really regular routines. Think about, enhancing their natural analytic and self-oriented abilities through focusing on having a health routine, a health program, something that keeps them focused. Think about kind of, the broader astrological lessons of health and the balance between that physical care and that emotional well-being. And, this kind of a theme resonating through when you think about Virgo and where it is going. Think about that balance between emotional well-being and physical care. All right, Libra. So with Libra, we are looking at, of course, balance and harmony forefront. We're looking at relationships. This sign is related to kidneys, skin. We're moving down the body. We're down a little lower now. Kidneys, skin. Think about things that illustrate beauty and equilibrium in our bodies and in our health. It's all about in what it governs, kind of thinking of balance, harmony. It's the keys, if you think about an air sign, that balance, that harmony. With Libras, you might find that skin health and kidney function are areas that require attention for them to maintain balance and well-being. They're governed by Venus, of course. And so Venus exerts kind of this influence over this kidneys, lower back area, kind of highlighting the importance of balance and relationship within the body. I think it's association with skin. Think about the fact that your skin is your largest organ in your body. It's the one that interfaces with the world. And if you think about that and how important relationships are and aesthetics are to Libra, I think it kind of underscores that Libran focus on that external harmony and the aesthetic, aspect of Libra. And then we look at the adrenal glands. That, of course, is involved in the body's stress response. And I think that also kind of points to Libra's role in maintaining equilibrium under pressure. All right. So individuals that have these placements could find themselves prone to things that have to do with balance or filtration, like kidney stones, urinary tract infections. It's almost reflecting like a need for them to balance themselves internally, that they're lacking internal harmony. Think about the lower back pain. It could emerge when you've got a Libra kind of searching for balance, be that physically or emotionally. In some way, they've been challenged, so they're searching for that balance, so the pain comes through in lower back pain. Skin conditions, all right? Again, because skin is part of them. You've got skin conditions like eczema, acne. Those could manifest when you have a Libra that's not in good balance, when their equilibrium is being disrupted by some kind of relational stress or environmental stress. Okay. When we look at them historically, and you've got Libra, and they are advised to pursue harmony in their surroundings and their relationships to support their health. That's what was recommended historically for Libra. They need to balance work with relaxation and kind of ensure that harmonious environment, always having that, crucial for their well-being. When we think about herbal remedies for them, think about kidneys, things like dandelion, cranberry, those were commonly recommended historically. Also skincare practices that had kind of a gentle balancing effect, and using natural beauty things, natural beauty products, natural herbal things for their beauty. So when we think about what Libra is teaching us, and, as far as our anatomy goes, again, we're looking at that physical balance relating to the kidney and the lower back, but also the emotional and environmental equilibrium to have that overall health effect for them. Okay. All right, Scorpio. So, of course, Scorpio, now we're way down the body. We've kind of wrapped around that wheel. Scorpio is going to rule the reproductive system, the elimination organs, areas in our body that have to do with regeneration and transformation. All right. Scorpios experience really intense healing and rebirth things also. And that's kind of underlined, of course, by the profound depth that they have as that fixed water sign. It's, of course, ruled traditionally by Mars and modern Pluto. And so, when you look at this, what this sign kind of embodies, you've got it embodying transformation and depth and intensity. All right. And the water sign piece of it kind of brings in that connection to reproduction and excretions. Okay. And so it kind of highlights the association with the actual cycle of life, death, rebirth, and elimination, both physically and emotionally. When you think about Scorpio, we're going to think about our pelvic area, and think about how significant its role is in change and regeneration. Another piece of the body that most people don't think about with Scorpio, because we're focused so much on our elimination system and our reproduction, our sexual organs, is the nose. And I know you're thinking, okay, the nose is on your face. Isn't that Aries land? Aries is ruled by Mars. Okay. The Scorpio part of the nose is, think about the elimination and the excretion, the things that come out of our nose, the mucus, all of the stuff that when we are not well, that come from our nose out. Scorpio is all about excretion. All right. So it can be the fluids that come from our nose, the fluids that come from our body, through sweat, through urine. Think of fluids when you think about Scorpio as well. All right. Historically, Scorpios actually were recognized as being healers. All right. Because they, of course, work through all this transformative practices, and they helped with really deep-rooted things. So, you're thinking about your psychologist, or your eons ago, your physicians, or your astrologers, for that matter, the people who actually helped people deal with deep-rooted things. And so with that came remedies and rituals that were aimed at supporting reproductive and the excretory systems. And so they used herbs like red raspberry leaf for menstrual issues, that dandelion root for liver support. Those were things that would have been recommended historically. And Scorpio is all about privacy and depth in healing. And so if you think about that with Scorpio, often for Scorpio to heal, it's done with introspection. That's where they get their transformation from, introspection. And so I think when you think about kind of the Scorpio with healing and Scorpio with its body parts, I think this sign really teaches us the importance of addressing root causes of health concerns, whether they're physical, emotional, or spiritual. And I think Scorpio reminds us of the fact that true healing is, it kind of makes, we have to navigate somewhere to get there. You have to kind of go through a darkness to emerge into something that's renewed, which I think makes it kind of an emphasis of the power of that regeneration and the potential, birth that is inherent in every individual. And think about, the symbology too with reproduction. When we reproduce, we have something born. So once again, you're bringing, you've got something that's come into, something that's been regenerated. It's come into the world. So when you think of Scorpio, think about regeneration. All right, we are at Sagittarius. So if you've got Sagittarius in any of these important placements, it influences, now we're getting way down on the body, hips, thighs, the sciatic nerve, and the liver. Okay, so this is where we're focusing now on the body, right? It's governed by Jupiter, okay, which is, of course, the planet of expansion, philosophy, higher learning. All right, so Sagittarius really embodies this quest for knowledge and freedom and adventure. And they're a fire sign. And so you've got this fire sign ruling over your hips and your thighs, which, if you think about it, reflects that innate need for movement and exploration. And when you think about your liver and being associated with Sagittarius, you're looking at the association to detoxification and the process of experiences, kind of underscoring this Sagittarian ability to assimilate and grow from life's journeys, right? And then we've got that sciatic nerve, which is the longest and the widest nerve in the human body, symbolizing how the Sagittarian kind of reach is towards that distant horizon, both physically and metaphorically. All right, so people who have this Sagittarius placement could have prone issues to things that have to do with hips and thighs, of course, strains, maybe injuries from physical activity. Liver health is very important for Sagittarians. And part of that is because they are known for indulgence. And the liver's role is all about metabolizing substances, right? And then with the sciatica or issues with that sciatic nerve, you have to think about, how that Sagittarian, they have that adventure spirit that pushes them beyond that physical limit. They're always pushing themselves farther than what they think they can go. All right. So historically, in ancient times, Sagittarians were advised to balance their quest for adventure with self-care. All right. And to recognize and be aware of their physical body's limits. All right. They were also encouraged to reflect heavily on personal growth and expansion. All right. And because they have to think about nourishing that exploratory nature without overextending themselves physically. So in ancient times, the Sagittarian energy was pushed forth to not only try to do things physically, but try to expand spiritually. Right? When we look at the for them of balancing that adventure with self-care, we're looking at a need to nurture physical mobility and liver health, basically. That's the important things for that Sagittarius. They have to sustain that quest they have for knowledge and experience. And so I think this sign is continually reminding us for the joy of exploration and growth that comes from pushing our boundaries, both physically and spiritually, while highlighting the necessity to listen to our bodies and kind of respect physical limits. All right, so we have Capricorn. All right, we're working our way around here. We're almost down to the bottom now. Capricorn is connected to structure and discipline. So we're thinking bones, teeth, and the skeletal system. Now, when we say teeth, also, they do mention in medical astrology that the upper jaw is Aries and the lower jaw is Taurus, but the actual teeth are Capricorn. Okay. And so when we think about Capricorn, which is an earth sign, and how foundational and structural it is, it kind of makes sense why it would be part of our bones and our knees and that skeletal system, because it's all about a kind of a sturdy physical framework to put ambition on. Okay. Both Libra and Capricorn are both related to skin, but in completely different ways. Okay. So Libra, remember we spoke about Libra and how it was associated with skin and other aspects of the body related to balance and symmetry. Think about its connection to Venus with beauty and harmony. When we think about it with Capricorn, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn. And so when we think about skin in this frame, think about it in terms of the protective function it serves and the structure. All right. So even though they both have interpretations concerning skin, we have a very different thing. Libra is about the aesthetic and the balance, and Capricorn is about the structure and the protective role that skin plays. Okay. So when we think about Capricorn and Saturn, like I said, we've got the skeletal system, which is our bones and our teeth, which kind of underscores that structural integrity is necessary for our physical bodies to function and endure. Our knees are very important for that support and the mobility. And I think that that is symbolized through Capricorn, through the ability to withstand pressure and persist through challenge. Also, when we think about the skin, think about it in terms of resilience and aging, and how this sign is connected to maturity and the passage of time reflected by Saturn. Okay. We need to think about, as far as challenges go for Capricorns, rigidity and density of the body structure, which think about things like arthritis, osteoporosis, dental issues, knee problems, maybe from that come through because of overexertion or lack of flexibility. Skin health, that would be skin dryness, skin issues related to aging, like the thinning or the wrinkling, things of that nature. All of this kind of mirrors this Capricornian theme of endurance and time's effects on the body. Okay. Now, if we think about it traditionally, Capricorns were advised to take care in balancing their hardworking nature with periods of rest and recuperation to kind of prevent the physical manifestations of stress and of time. Okay, so practices like meditation or spending time in nature were highly recommended to kind of provide that counterbalance to their disciplined and sometimes very elemental, austere approach to life. Capricorn, if we think about how the astrological anatomy is kind of trying to teach us things, I think it is teaching us the importance of the physical body's framework and the need to care for it with the same diligence that we do to our ambitions and our responsibilities. By nurturing our bones and our teeth and our skin, we are like ensuring foundational health supports, and so it really supports the goals that we, for us to be able to withstand time. And it reminds us of the structure and the discipline and the care that are vital to that physical well-being. All right, Aquarius. All right, so now we're all the way down to ankles, shins, circulatory system, and nervous system. Okay. We are looking at govern, let's see. Uranus is the modern ruler of Aquarius. And of course, Capricorn, Saturn is not Capricorn. Saturn is the traditional. All right. So let's look at it first. What we're getting from Uranus as far as Aquarius is concerned. All right. So when we look at Uranus, we're looking at a planet that is all about innovation, evolution, change. And I think that Aquarius really embodies that in the essence of progress and community and idealism. It is, of course, an air sign. So when we think about it with our ankles, think about how it's supporting kind of a forward movement and the adaptability in navigating life's various terrains. Okay. When we think about Uranus and Aquarius and circulatory system, think about it, how it highlights the distribution of ideas and the flow of energies that are akin to that circulation of blood that sustains life. Okay. And when we think about shins and the nervous system, think about kind of the underlying role that with communication that happens within the body and the external world. Okay. Now let's think about it from the point of view of its traditional ruler, Saturn. All right. So Saturn, as the ruler of Aquarius, really brings in the sign of this profound sense of duty towards the collective and this really disciplined approach to innovation. And so when we think about the body parts associated with Aquarius reflecting Saturn, okay, we're thinking about that ankle, circulatory system, shins, that nervous system. Think about how it reflects Saturn's principles of stability, structure, and orderly progress. All right. I think these parts really illustrate how Aquarius combines the ability to stand firm, ankles, and move ideas and blood, that circulatory system, and journey towards the new realms, the shins, and kind of coordinate really intricate communication systems and networks, that nervous system, and how it contributes to the whole societal advancement and personal growth of an individual. Okay, so you can see how both the modern and the traditional rulers are combining to make these symbolisms for the anatomy. All right, so if you have a lot of Aquarius and it's prominent in your chart, we are probably going to have issues related to ankle sprains, varicose veins, things that have to do with circulation. Nervous system health is crucial for Aquarians. They might express stress, and experience lots of stress or nerve-related issues due to the active mind and that constant pursuit of that innovation. Historically, Aquarians, of course, were seen as visionaries and change makers. They were way ahead of their time. And so to support their health, practices that encourage grounding and stability were recommended to complement their expansive nature. And so the use of electric and magnetic therapies were very popular. And I think that kind of reflects that Uranian association. Also, there's been they've explored supporting nervous and circulatory systems. So you're almost mirroring that affinity with technology and innovation also. Fibromyalgia, there you go, Willow. Yep. All right. So when we look at Aquarius, we've got, and the anatomy that it's representing. I think with it, you have to think about the importance of flow in a physical sense through the circulation and the nervous system, but also metaphorically through ideas and innovation, right? And I think it's really important that the body is nurtured to adapt and move freely for Aquarians because they have to have the ability to support that mental health piece and also that physical health piece so that they have the ability to literally keep up with their visionary selves. Um, it's all about having that balance of innovation with grounding and reminding us that even as you reach for the stars, you have to take care of the vessel that's carrying us on our journey. Okay. And we've finally gotten to the last. We're at the very bottom of the body now. We've come all the way around to the beginning of the chart again. And we're looking at Pisces now. All right. So Pisces is, of course, our feet, our lymphatic system. Right. And when you think about Pisces as the final sign of the zodiac, all right, you've got your feet, your lymphatic system, and it kind of is embodying like a collective. It's like I'm trying to think of how to put this. It's like the collective conscious and the fluidity is what we get with that Pisces. And so Pisces might find that foot health and immune system support are really vital to their well-being. Because it reflects their need to ground their vast emotional and spiritual depth. All right. So when we look at Neptune and Jupiter representing Pisces, we're thinking about, spirituality, dreams, abundance, being, optimistic, kind of, being very expansive. And I think that these embody this connection between the physical world, the 3D, and the mystical world. All right. And because water has the dominion over this, if we think about feet symbolizing the foundation in the spiritual realm and the physical world, I think it highlights the importance of grounding and the movement through life's fluid experiences. All right. And think about your lymphatic and your immune systems. Pisces influence there, I think, is all about sensitivity to the environment and kind of the unseen forces that impact our well-being, kind of giving us and underlining that connectedness of all things together in one. When you have those heavy Pisces placements, you are susceptible to things, like I said, foot problems, like swelling, fungal infections, injuries, high sensitivity. You're very, very sensitive. So it makes you more prone to immune system challenges like allergies, autoimmune conditions, things that are reflecting empathetic absorption of that surrounding energy. Historically, if we think about the Pisceans, we were thinking about their healing and spiritual roles, right? They were drawing upon their really innate connection to the unseen world. And so we think about herbal remedies that support that immune system and that promote that relaxation. Think about echinacea, lavender, those would have been commonly used. Think about practices of walking barefoot and connecting with earth. Think about grounding and earthing. Think about grounding meditation. All of those things were very important. Now we're seeing those, the popularity of grounding sheets and grounding mats and grounding rugs. All of those things are very popular in recently. All those things are coming forth. So think about the grounding. You can go outside without your shoes and sit or stand for 20 minutes on the earth and gather up enough energy for an entire day. So when you think about grounding and earthing, it doesn't have to be something crazy long. Just going outside and sitting on a bench and putting your feet in the grass or in the sand on a beach for a short period of time would gain you a ton of that energy. And when you think about grounding, also don't think about just the earth. Think about the rain. Going out in the rain is very healthy. It, again, fills us full of energy. And think about the water relation here with that Pisces energy. So you can go out and sit in the rain and get just as much energy as you would by going out and sitting in the sun and and earthing with your feet and your body. Okay. Now, when we think about, again, Pisces and the anatomy and astrology, um, I think it's really all about connecting your spiritual and your emotional well-being. You know, Pisces need to care for their feet so they can keep navigating, that intuition and that grace. Yes, wind too, Carla. Yes. Um, so they have to support that immune system to protect their sensitive nature, and they really need to work on maintaining their energetic boundaries. That's why that grounding is so important for them, so that they have the ability to heal themselves, their body, their mind, their spirit, all as one. Okay. All right. So we've made it through all of our zodiac signs. Now let's talk a little bit about astrological constitution. This is a very important connection when we think about astrology and health. Okay. And it's essential to understand the concept to astrological constitution and medical astrology. These like are hand in hand. So basically when I talk about astrological constitution, what I'm talking about is our sun signs vitality, our moon signs emotional influence on health, and our ascendant rising signs physical predispositions. Okay. These tailor our health practices personally. It gives us the ability to take things and actually personally tailor them for ourselves. And so this is that holistic approach that I spoke about in the beginning, because it gives us the ability to align our lifestyle and our diet and our stress management all together with our innate tendencies to kind of help promote that state of health and really resonate deeply through your astrological makeup. Okay. So embracing our astrological constitution is going to be more than just about acknowledging our strengths and our weaknesses. It's also about engaging with our health in a proactive, informed, and really deeply personal way. It's going to empower you to make choices to honor your unique makeup and kind of leading to more balanced and harmonious state of being. All right. So we're going to go through each of these individually, but when I'm speaking of the sun sign, that's going to represent for us our core identity, our vitality, our life force. All right. And it's going to indicate an innate strength and potential health area based upon its elemental sign. So we're going to talk about earth, fire, air, and water. All right. And how those associate as well with the body parts that we just talked about. Okay. When we talk about the moon, we're looking at our emotional landscape, our internal nourishment, and how we respond to stress and environmental factors. Right. So it's going to put this moon is going to put the importance, and it's going to highlight how emotional well-being is going to impact our physical health. And when we look at the ascendant and the rising sign, we're looking at our physical body and our outward approach to life, including, of course, those first impressions and our immediate responses to our environment. So it's going to have the ability to help reveal inherent physical strengths and susceptibilities in that physical outward environment. All right. So I'm going to go through each of these individually, and we're going to go through the pieces that we need to think about when we get to the end of this, when you can utilize this with charts. All right. So like I said, your sun sign is the essence of vitality. All right. It is more than just our basic identity. It's the beacon of our vitality and our life force. All right. Each sun sign's vitality is a really unique blend of its in the element quality that it has, which influences, of course, not only our physical health, but also our emotional or our mental well-being. But by understanding the traits that go with the sun sign, you're going to be able to see how it kind of shapes your overall vitality and your health. All right, so I'm going to go through each one of the elements here. All right, so fire signs, Aries, Leo, Sagittarius. All right, so Aries individuals are known for that high energy level, that robust physicality. Their vitality often is translated into quick recovery from illnesses and a really strong immune system. However, they can be prone to accidents, headaches, inflammatory conditions because they are so impulsive and they're so dynamic. Okay. Leo, we've got Leo, and they really radiate that warmth and that vitality. Um, and they often possess a really strong heart and circulatory system. And that vibrant energy that they have is very contagious, but they have to guard against issues related to that heart and spine. So any overexertion or stress from their really intense drive that they have to do things will lead to them burnout if they're not managing it. So it's really important for them to manage not getting burnout from over doing things and from over stress. Okay. Sagittarius. Of course, Sagittarians have this really expansive energy about them that fuels their love for adventure and that physical activity. And it contributes to generally, this really healthy constitution. Sagittarius are usually pretty healthy, but they have to be mindful of the liver and the hips because that is essential to them having the ability to maintain their health process. And it's really important for them to avoid being overindulgent in food and in drink. Okay. When we do the earth signs, we've got Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn. All right. Our Taurians exhibit physical strength and endurance, right? They have really solid and resilient constitution. All right. And of course, they are prone to throat and neck issues, and they need to watch for weight gain and related metabolic issues that are due to their love for comfort and for really good food. They love good things. They're all about the sensory stuff. And when I say prone to throat and neck, it might not necessarily be, it could be a minor issue. Example, like I said, I have heavy Taurus. I'm a Taurus. Uh, I'm not a Taurus sun, but I am a Taurus moon and I am a Taurus rising. And an issue that I have that is throat oriented is I have for my entire life had modulating vocal cords. My voice changes randomly and it has my entire life. And I have never had the ability to control it. It just occurs. But it is sometimes related to my emotions as I am speaking. All right. So that is an example of a throat or neck issue that might not be one that is, devastatingly life affecting, but yet still is something that is very noticeable because it's my ascendant, is very noticeable and is related to emotion because it's my moon. Okay. So you have to really take these apart and think about the pieces and how they relate. All right, Virgo. All right, so like I said, our Virgos are very health conscious and they're very meticulous about their well-being, which usually means have pretty healthy lifestyles. However, for them, that tendency to worry leads to those digestive issues and those stress-related ailments. And so it's really, really essential for them to have the benefit of a really regular routine and a balanced diet. Capricorn, known for stamina, disciplined approach to health. All right. They've got strong bones and strong teeth, but they often kind of have challenges with that skeletal system, the arthritis, the knee issues. So for them, they have to really work on managing stress and ensuring that adequate rest and is crucial for their well-being, for their vitality. Okay. Air signs, Gemini, Libra, and Aquarius. All right. So Geminis are lively. They're really agile mentally. They're curious. They're, talkative, and they have a really high level of risk energy. Okay. And so this makes them susceptible to, respiratory issues, anxiety issues. For them, they have to have regular physical activity and very mindful practices to keep them balanced, to maintain and prevent their burnout. Okay. So for them, that going to the gym regularly and meditating regularly is really important. Libra. Libra, we're looking at harmony and balance, all right, which has to extend to their health. All right. So generally, they maintain good health through balanced lifestyle. For them, that's how they do it. But they have those challenges with the kidneys and the lower back. And so when we think about maintaining equilibrium, it has to happen in their diet. And they really do try to have to avoid stress, which is an essential piece. It's the key to maintaining their vitality, right? Capricorn. No, not Capricorn. Aquarius. Aquarians. Of course, we've talked about how they have innovation and how unpredictable they are. And for them, usually they're very robust health-wise, but their primary thing is that circulatory system and often leg cramps. They have a lot of leg cramping issues. And so for them, they have to stay active. They are not one that can sit for long periods of time. They have to get up and they have to move around because they have to maintain good blood flow in their body because that's important for their vitality. Okay. And last, we have our water sign, Cancer, Scorpio, and Pisces. Cancer, okay, emotions, the emotional world, that completely impacts their physical health. With them being prone to those digestive issues and the stress ailments, they have to ensure that they have a supportive home environment and practice emotional self-care. That is essential to their vitality. It is non-negotiable, right? So their home has to be their sanctuary, and they have to have some kind of emotional self-care set up, right? Scorpio, like I said, we talked about all of that regenerative energy they have and how powerful their constitution is. And so for them, their challenges could happen within those reproductive organs and detoxification systems. All right. So for them, they have to embrace that transformation and they have to avoid that stress. For them, that's what's crucial for their health. So they can't run from stress. They have to kind of lean into it so that they are continually on that path to be better and transforming and growing and finding whatever it is that is not working and transforming themselves to make it move forward. Pisces, sensitive, empathetic. They are prone to being psychosomatic and so get psychosomatic conditions. They are our hypochondriacs sometimes. They might struggle with immune system and feet-related issues, of course. But for them, the key is that emotional release and grounding that we talked about. For them, their vitality lies in a system of emotional release and grounding practices set up in their everyday life. Okay. All right, let's focus in on the moon here. All right, so for the moon sign acts as a mirror for our emotions and our internal landscape. Okay. It deeply influences how we process emotions and how we respond to stress. All right. So if you've got a sun sign and your vitality is stress, it stresses piece of what you're trying to calm to maintain your vitality, you want to look at your moon sign to kind of get some ideas of how to respond to that stress. All right. Our moon sign is all about our instinctive reactions to things, our subconscious habits, and the way we nurture ourselves and others. Okay. And that moon's influence on our health is really profound because it's our emotional state. And often our emotional state manifests itself physically and it affects various systems in our body. All right. So I'm going to go through each of the moon signs and kind of go through some of the health concerns that are associated. All right. So we've got moon in Aries. Individuals with this placement react quickly to emotional stimuli. And so they display really impulsive and passionate responses to things. This is a fiery energy, so it can lead to stress-related headaches, migraines, sinus issues. They benefit from regular physical activity to channel that energy and to prevent frustration from building up in them. All right. Taurus. Taurus moon, they seek comfort and stability. And so for them, it's food. That's their emotional outlet. And so it can lead to weight gain and related health issues like thyroid issues, diabetes. Their strong connection to physical world means that they benefit from a really steady routine and a really balanced diet. Gemini, moon in Gemini. Moon in Gemini is about processing emotions through communication and intellectualizing them. They might experience nervous tension, those respiratory issues, conditions like asthma, due to being very high strung in nature. Activities like things that calm their mind, like meditation, like we talked about journaling, really help them manage their stress effectively. Right? Moon in Cancer. It's a water sign, and of course, it's ruled by the moon. So it's deeply connected to the emotional body things. So we're looking at sensitive digestive systems reflecting the tendency to digest emotional things internally. All right. That's that, when you don't let it out, you suck it up, you keep it in, you process your emotions inside. This could cause stomach ulcers, acid reflux, gastrointestinal issues. It's important for them, as we said last time, for their well-being, they really need a safe and nurturing environment that is home, a place where they can go to and they're safe and they can decompress. Moon and Leo, they crave recognition and appreciation, and they respond to emotional stress, usually with some kind of drama in a very dramatic way. They might experience issues related to that heart and spine, such as palpitations, some kind of back issue. Engaging in being very creative in the way they express themselves and assuring that they feel they are loved and that people pay attention to them really helps them maintain their health. So it's really important for them to have that connection, not only with others, but with self, loving self. Okay. Moon in Virgo. Moon in Virgo is all about worrying and overthinking things, which leads to digestive issues like that IBS or stress related ailments. So for them, they often channel their emotions into some meticulous routine or some routine of cleanliness. And so for them, they have to really practice being mindful and trying to have that mindful relaxation, involving mindful relaxation techniques daily in their life will really help them alleviate that anxiety and really improve overall health for them. Moon in Libra, harmony and balance in relationships and in environment. This is this Libra moon might experience the kidney and the lower back issues, which would be stemming from that emotional imbalance. To ensure they have balance, they really need to engage in activities that promote inner peace and benefit well-being, which means, I hear myself saying this over and over again. When we look at our moon, whatever is indicated as giving us an inner balance and inner peace is where we need to focus that energy. Okay. Scorpio moon, emotional intensity and profound, emotions, hidden emotion, way deep underneath the exterior. So this leads to issues with the reproductive system, the bladder, your urines that excrete, your urines, your organs that excrete, um, they benefit from things that allow them to have deep emotional release, which is often therapy or some kind of really intense physical activity. Sagittarius moon, we're looking at, again, that expansive and optimistic approach to life, freedom, adventure. All right. So for them, again, we're thinking liver, hips, thighs. So for them, it's overindulgence. So for them, they have to have that regular physical activity and they have to have that moderation in diet to maintain their system and their vitality and their emotional balance. Capricorn moon, suppress emotions, value control, and discipline. Okay, so you're looking at chronic stress, joint issues, skin problems. They benefit from things that allow them to release control and to express their emotions, like art, nature, finding some kind of hobby that literally lets them be who maybe they don't normally get to be. Okay. Moon in Aquarius. We're looking at emotions with detachment, being very rational, valuing intellectual connections with others over being emotionally intimate with others. So this might look like, of course, we've got that circulatory issues, nervous issues, leg cramping. So to avoid, they need to engage in social activities and regular physical movement that helps them find balance. So basically, they need to find a way to keep themselves engaged with others and engaging their bodies in movement. They can't be sitting too long. Pisces and moon, the high level of empathy and intuition. They absorb the emotions of everybody around them. They face issues with, like we said, the immune system, feet, the psychosomatic illnesses. So for them, they have to work on learning how to reinforce their boundaries and become grounded through yoga, or like we talked about, earthing, spending time near water. If a Pisces can get in a pool or get in a lake or sit by a lake or sit by a pool or have a fountain in their home where they just sit at night and just relax. All of those things are very valuable to the Pisces energy. All right. Our third piece of this puzzle is the ascendant. The ascendant or rising sign, of course, is representing that zodiac sign that was rising on that eastern horizon at the exact moment of birth. And it serves as our interface between our inner world and how we project ourselves outwardly. Now, the sign shapes our physical appearance and our mannerisms, and it actually gives us a lot of tells us a lot about our predispositions in health. It's almost like it reflects our first line of defense against the world. All right. So understanding this ascendant energy and its influence on our physical appearance really gives us a way to navigate our health by recognizing unique ways in which we can kind of project our inner selves outwardly to get that through. So we're going to look at some key health related things that are associated with each ascendant. Okay. All right. So our Aries ascendant. We're looking at strong athletic build, dynamic presence, prominent facial features, sharp eyes, sharp jawline. Health predispositions might include high metabolism, robust immune system. They can be prone to fevers, headaches, and injuries, which we've already talked about, due to their increased activity and their need to be impulsive. So regular exercise and a really balanced lifestyle is what they need to balance that vitality. Taurus rising, solid, sturdy physique, calm, steady demeanor. They might have a strong neck and be very attractive with symmetrical features. Health-wise, they are usually pretty resilient, but they can be susceptible to things related to the throat, the neck, and the thyroid. That love for comfort leads to weight gain and metabolic issues, which means that having regularity in their diet is very important. It's important for them to not go too far off that path with regularity, to have that regular, and then maybe just kind of go off every now and then. Gemini, lean, agile build, very expressive, youthful features. They exude a lively communicative nature, where they're health concerns, of course, revolve around that respiratory nervous system, asthma, bronchitis, anxiety. So for them, staying active, both mentally and physically, are what is going to keep their health in check. Like I said, they're the kind that need to visit that gym. Cancer risings, soft, round face structure, nurturing presence. They exhibit a predisposition to retaining fluid. They might have a fuller, more curvaceous body type. Health challenges for Cancer ascendants might be, of course, those digestive issues that are related to stress and emotional health. So for them, as I've said, it's having that supportive home environment and practicing some kind of stress relief for them that is on with regularity to maintain that sense of balance. The Leo ascendant, strong character, confident posture, very striking features. Often they have literally a mane of hair. A lot of Leo ascendants have beautiful hair. They exude warm and charismatic. They got that aura of being charismatic around them. They have strong cardiovascular health. But as we know, we've got those possible health issues and those back problems if they overextend themselves. So for them, it's avoiding that overextension. It's trying to maintain that moderation in what they do in their life. All right. Virgo, usually they are slender, very refined build, neat, very meticulous appearance. They might be prone to worrying, maybe having a tendency towards being a hypochondriac. Health-wise, they focus a lot on their health, but they have those digestive issues, things stress related that has to do with digestion. So for them, it's almost because they need to balance. It's looking at balancing that high level of detail. They need to try to, keep everything in an even keel so they don't run off too far. Keep a balanced diet, exercise, in a balanced way, have some kind of mindful practice and just to kind of maintain that straight plane for them and not have those, highs and lows created by the worry and the meticulous nature. Libras, they look usually very balanced and attractive in appearance, very symmetrical. They have a very pleasant demeanor about them usually. They're usually very friendly. Of course, you've got the kidneys, the lower back, and the endocrine. So for them, it's about maintaining harmony in, relationships and environment. And so that is what creates their overall well-being, to find that harmony in relationship and environment. Scorpios, usually they're very magnetic in presence. They have intense eyes, and usually they're kind of strong, muscular, maybe a little, but I mean, most of these Scorpios that I meet usually are either dark-eyed, dark-haired. They have a darkness to their physical appearance. They're known for their resilience. And again, for them, the stress usually comes through with reproduction. So for them, it's that emotional release. All right. Emotional release. So they have to have something in their life that is going to give them emotional release, which for each one, you have to find that one thing. For some, it could be, diving into astrology. For another, it might be, seeking some kind of weekly, wellness thing, be it a counselor or a coach or, something of that nature. Sagittarius ascendant, we're looking at, usually they're tall, athletic, adventurous, jovial. They exude optimism and energy. They've got the liver, the hips, the thigh issues because of overindulgence. So for them, it's moderation. They have to come up with a balanced diet, the balanced exercise, balanced, they got to try to keep it balanced because that Jupiter makes them want to go, ooh, they got to keep it balanced. Capricorn, we're looking at lean, disciplined physique, usually very serious and determined looking. They often have really strong bone structures, and they usually gracefully age. Many of the Capricorns I've known that have a Capricorn ascendant usually are the ones that are more attractive with age. Health-wise, we know it's the skeletal system. So, you've got arthritis issues as well as skin things happening. For them, they have to find a way to manage stress and maintain their physical activity. And often those can be the same thing if they find a niche in physical activity that is appealing to them. Like my mind comes to things like, you have the people who are walkers every night. They go for walks every night. It's their routine. After dinner, they go for a walk. It could be, I think of those that pick a certain sport and it becomes the thing they do, be it my mind is going to like the Peloton biking or, because that's a very, I don't know why I associate that with Capricorn, but I do. But some very persistent and very patterned and very structured activity that brings them a physical well-being and relieves stress for them. Aquarius. Aquariuses usually are the unique and very eclectic appearance to people. Usually they have a kind of a detached intellectual demeanor about them. We've got the circulatory issues, ankles, lower legs. So for them, having that good circulation is really important to their health. And so it's all about engaging in that social and intellectual pursuit to keep their minds and their bodies balanced. So for them, it's all about, like I said, being socially involved and having some kind of intellectual stimulation in their lives. And our Pisces individuals usually are very soft, maybe a little, I almost think of them as kind of angelic. They've got a very ethereal appearance about them. They usually have kind of dreamy eyes and they have a very gentle appearance to them. They're highly empathetic and sensitive. So, for them, it's all about grounding. We've talked about that over and over. Grounding, 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 and making strong boundaries. Boundaries and grounding. Okay. All right. So I've given you all these basics. Like I said, we're just barely scratching them. And now I'm going to put them to action. I reached out and asked if anybody was willing to volunteer a chart. And I had a volunteer. So we're going to kind of determine your astrological constitution by looking at the sun sign, the moon sign, and the ascendant. All right. And kind of look at it through the chart. Okay. So here's my volunteer chart. I have everything kept anonymous. So my volunteer is here. So if you want to bring yourself out and make comments, you feel free. But you don't have to. So it's up to you. But if you want to reveal and make comments here or there, you feel free. So here is the chart of our participant. And we are going to start by, if you don't have a chart, I'm guessing all of you know how to find your chart. I can't imagine any of you, because you've been with me, most of you, many times, that you don't have access to a chart. But if for some reason you don't, here is a link to the AstroSeek software, which is what I always recommend if someone doesn't have access to software. It is online and it's free and it's pretty simple. I actually used it to create this chart. So if people were using that chart, they would be able to find things in this chart. All right, so jumping into the sun of this chart, okay, we've got our sun up here. So the sun for this individual is in Leo. All right, so let's think about what this says. All right, so we've found our chart. Now we're asking ourselves, we've got a Leo chart here, Leo sun sign. What is this going to tell me? All right, so I'm going to say, all right, so let's think first about 4 traits and energy of that Leo. All right, so we've got, it's ruled by the sun. So that means this person is going to be very, have a lot of vital energy. They're going to have a powerful life force, and that they are going to possess a natural kind of vitality and an ability to shine brightly, both socially and professionally. They have the ability to kind of stand out. It suggests that Leo sun suggests that they are very resilient. They probably have a pretty strong immune system that helps them recover from things when they do get sick. Some potential health concerns that would be associated to Leo. Again, we talked about the heart, the spine. So that makes, cardiovascular health really important for this person. They have to monitor their heart health, including their blood pressure, their cholesterol levels. All of that's really important to them. They need to have regular exercise and try to have a heart healthy diet. That's going to help them. When we think about their connection to the spine and their spinal health, we're looking at, engaging in exercises and practice good posture is really important for them. And it's really important for them to be mindful of anything that might strain the spine, like picking things up or moving things of that nature. They do have the propensity too for those stress-related conditions like hypertension, ulcers, because they put themselves in high-stress situations. So they have to work on balancing their dynamic lifestyles with relaxation techniques. That's like key to them. All right. Let's think about what that Leo tells us about element. All right. So it's a fire sign. All right. So that's going to tell us that, we've got those high energy levels, the dynamic approach to life, strong sense of vitality, robust immune system, similar to what we were just talking about, resilient and ability to bounce back from things. The fire sign could have inflammatory conditions. So you could be looking at maybe a little arthritis or some kind of general inflammation as a response to injury or infection. It's important for them to manage the inflammation through their diet and their lifestyle. That fire sign says they are probably have a risk of accidents, particularly anything involving heat or fire. So they might want to be, have precaution when it comes to things with fire, cooking, sun, those kinds of things. Okay. Some things to think about as far as a health practice, just from a little bit that we have here. They would want to engage in physical activities that challenge their need for some vigor. So they might incorporate things like yoga that would help them manage their energy as well. But some kind of vigorous activity would also be very important to them to manage inflammation in their bodies. You might think of an anti-inflammatory diet rich in antioxidants and like the omega-3 fatty acids, Those might help a little bit with, the risk of inflammatory conditions. Herbs and spices used for anti-inflammatory things like turmeric and ginger might be beneficial. Safety precautions: be careful of heat, be careful of fire, use caution when you exercise, don't get too crazy, wear protective things if it's available for when you're out doing things that might require any kind of protective gear. Don't not wear protective gear. Okay. All right. Then the next thing we locate is our moon. All right. So we've got a little information about this person. All right. We're going with a little bit here. We're headed into the next piece. So now we're going to look at the emotional nature and how this person would nurture themselves and others. All right. So this is telling us we've got Taurus moon. So this Taurus moon says it's Earth. So we're looking at somebody who is stable, is grounded, has physical endurance. They probably have a very robust constitution and a strong connection to the physical aspects of life. They probably greatly appreciate earth-based things to enhance or affect their moods. It's ruled by Venus. So there's probably a tendency to seek comfort. Sensory things are probably very appealing to them, and they probably really like good food. All right. Some health tendencies. Again, we've got the throat and neck issues. So with this moon in Taurus, you could look at sore throats, neck stiffness, maybe a thyroid imbalance. So these would be things you'd want to monitor regularly. Because of the affinity for indulgence, you could have issues with weight management and things to do with metabolism. Tendency to enjoy really rich and comforting foods, which might cause weight gain or digestive sluggishness. So it's important to have a moderate diet and have that physical activity. Resistant to change. This Taurus moon is going to, because it's fixed, might make it hard for them to adopt new health routines or make dietary changes that are challenging. They might resist these things initially, even though they know they need them to have those new health challenges. Okay. We're looking at also with moon in Taurus, our strengths and our weaknesses. Strengths: sturdy build, robust health. Like I said, probably recovers really well from things when they do have things wrong with them. They thrive on routine. They're likely to maintain consistent health practices that kind of give them an overall wellness. Their stable approach to things actually helps with them building a really long-term health habit. They're really good at building habits that last long time, for long times. Because they're so naturally grounded and calm in disposition, stress management is really good for them with, to promote mental well-being. So it's really good for them to have very comforting and relaxive supports around them. Weaknesses we've talked about, the overeating. It could cause for, obesity, digestive issues, high cholesterol. They struggle with cravings. They could be stubborn, resistant to change, making it difficult for the moon to adapt to new health regimens, like we talked about. They might be prone to throat infection, thyroid, those kinds of things could become prominent to them. All right, and then last piece. So far we know we've got that fiery Leo energy. We've got that earthy Taurus energy, which those probably kind of help to balance each other a little bit. And now we have another dose of earth, which means the earth is much heavier in this individual than the fire. You see probably more of the earthiness when you first meet them. So we're looking at, with that Capricorn, earth, ascendant, we're looking at Saturn, of course, having rulership here. So we're looking at structure, discipline, a very practical approach to life, very methodical in their attitude towards their health. Probably a tendency to be conservative in their approach, and and prefer trying things that are tried and true over being completely uh, wild things. They might go with very earthy, maybe alternative medicational things, but they have to be things that have proof with them. They won't be ones to go with just these wild, unconditional, fad kind of things. That won't be them. All right. We are looking at, as far as the health tendencies, we are looking at, we will talk about the moon being exalted next week. Okay. Because like I said, we're going to go into each of the planets, including the sun and the moon, with heavy detail, not next week, but in 2 weeks when we do the planets. Like I said, there's so many layers to this. I had to come in piece by piece to get you guys through the onion. We are looking at, for this individual, that Capricorn is governing their skeletal system. So we're looking at bones, joints, knees. So they could have issues with arthritis, joint pain, maybe osteoporosis, rules the skin and the teeth. So we could have dry skin, we could have eczema, maybe dental issues on occasion. So they need to take really good care of their skin, and dental hygiene is essential for them. Their metabolism might be slow, which could lead to sluggish conditions like constipation or just slow movement of their digestion. So it's important for them to have fiber in their diet, very hydrated. Strengths for them, like I said, you've got those very, very high endurance and long-term challenges, and recover well from illness. So that's all positive, and that goes with kind of all the other too. They recover well. So even when they get sick, they bounce back. Digestive issues, that slow digestion can be aided by fiber and probiotics, things of that nature. Dealing with the high stress levels, that come within life, they might, need to kind of try to adapt and bring in some things that give them relaxation into their system, into their routines. They definitely need to pay attention to that bone and joint health, digestive care, and stress management. Those are pretty much crucial. All right, so if we throw it together, let's put all our pieces together here and kind of reflect on what this tells us about this individual. So we've got our Leo sun, which gives us radiance, energy, and being dynamic. And it gives us we're heart focused. Our health focus is vitality, our heart, and our spine. We're managing inflammation and we're managing stress. Our moon, it brings that earth in. It's stable, it's grounded, and it's comfort seeking. So it's giving us focuses on our throat, our neck, and our thyroid, our metabolism, our weight, and sensory well-being. All right. And then that Capricorn ascendant brings in structure, discipline, and being very pragmatic. Our focuses are bones, joints, skeletal, skin, teeth, and our digestive functions. All right. So if we put them kind of holistically, applying it all the way around, I would say that we're looking at, some, how do I want to put this? If we're looking at the strengths, you're looking at strong immune system, quick recovery from illnesses, active lifestyle, and overall fitness. Okay, that's what we're looking at to keep this person healthy. These are the strengths. Good routine, ease to make a routine, maintaining consistency in health. And then we're having a very disciplined approach to things. We're going at things with a lot of structure so that we can try to have that long-term health and resilience. All right. The great vulnerabilities of this chart. Like I said, health with heart and spine when we're under stress, our physical strength, and a predisposition to inflammatory conditions. We're looking at susceptibility to throat infection, thyroid imbalance, and challenges with weight management. And we're looking at a vulnerability to the bone and joints with arthritis and osteoporosis and having a very sluggish digestive system. Okay, so those are our things. So what can we do to support them? Okay, that's kind of the important thing. We've kind of figured out what the issues might be. What can they do to support themselves? For the heart and spine, I would say engage in some kind of cardiovascular exercise to strengthen that heart. Get into some yoga or Pilates for our spinal health, and find some kind of relaxation technique that you can use to manage your stress and to reduce that inflammation in your body. For stress, I would recommend, like I said, creativity and relaxation things, meditation, art, yoga, those kinds of things. We need, for that throat and neck health, warm saltwater gargling would help with voice care and throat care. Stretching and strengthening of the neck to prevent stiffness. Managing a diet that supports like a healthy metabolism to avoid that indulgence in those rich foods. Seeking comfort through non-related activities like music, nature, aromatherapy, anything that would satisfy a sensory need without it being something that is consumed. For the bone and joint support, weight-bearing exercises like walking, strength training to maintaining, support that bone density and flexibility. Supplements like calcium, maybe vitamin D to support the skeletal health. High fiber diet, hydration to help with the digestive areas, and a regular, consistent routine that helps, keep your body have a nice routine in its digestive nature. All right. And essential oils. Yes. Essential oils. Yes, yes, yes. All right. So I hope this helped. Kind of like I said, I was scratching the surface there. Our next session in 2 weeks, I go into the next layer, and I'm going to work with how significant each planet is to our health. All right, we're going to not only look at our luminaries and our planets, but we're also going to talk about Ceres. Ceres is very important when it comes to health and astrology. All right, so, and then like I said, 2 weeks after that, we're doing our houses. 2 weeks after that, our aspects. And then the last session, we will do how transits, how we can look at the transits to kind of do some predictive health things. Okay. All right. My last piece for you before I ask if there are any questions or comments. These are 2 books that I have utilized in my learning, and I really like them. Judith Hill is a wealth of knowledge. I think those of you who have been around for a while know me. I struggle with Judith Hill's style of teaching. I have trouble listening to her. I don't know why, but there's just an energetic, not good there. But when I read her things, I get tons from them. So she has a ton of books, but this one specifically focuses on the astrological body types, face form, and expression. It's basically like a comprehensive guide on how astrology relates to physical appearance and body types. And so it goes heavily into the shape of our bodies and our health tendencies. Okay. And then you can buy it on Amazon. It's currently available. It's not horribly expensive. The second one that I used is one that I actually got with much work. You will only find this used. You might find it on eBay or like thrift books, or maybe if you get lucky. I found it in a thrift store. It was a true blessing. It's called Astrology and Health: A Beginner's Guide. The author is Dylan Warren Davis. It's a really beginner-friendly introduction to medical astrology. It covers all the basic principles and their application to health and wellness. And so if you want to kind of if you were just scratching the surface like we are now, and you're trying to get some understandings as to whether this is something you really want to go in deep with, This is an awesome book if you can get your hands on it. If I've already piqued your interest to the point where you want to learn way more than I'm going to get to cover in the next 4 sessions, medical astrologers you can Google and look for on YouTube. Judith Hill, Kira Sutherland. I love Kira Sutherland. She's wonderful. I enjoy watching her webinars and when she speaks in podcasts and things. Eileen Newman is a Uranian astrologer. That's how I got to know her. She works heavily with midpoints and medical astrology, and she has amazing accuracy. And her book, she has a book. I didn't put it on here. I will mention it next time. She has a book that, again, I had to go beg, borrow, and steal to find. I even found an autographed copy of it. Actually, I have it here. It is right there. Medical Astrology. It's the purple one down there. It's wonderful. If you can ever get her book, Medical Astrology, get it. It's amazing. And she does podcasts sometimes and things that you can find her. She has a really good website as well. And then the instructor that I went through medical astrology with, she has a academy that runs over a period of time. Her name is Heather Eland. She would be also a source, and she does a lot of stuff on YouTube. All right, so those would be my recommendations. All right, questions, thoughts? All right, I am going to stop our recording, but I will take questions and things only because we have gotten so long and I don't want to hold the recording back any longer.